What's the worst thing that can happen if you keep ignoring your debt in China? Hi everyone, I'm Zeng, a Chinese man carrying about $84,000 in debt.
哎，你好，我拿一下菜，
A lot of viewers
谢
ask
谢。
me in the comments, in China, can you get your debt discharged through personal bankruptcy? And if you stop paying your debt altogether, can you actually go to jail? Right now, real personal bankruptcy systems in China only exist on a trial basis in two cities, Shenzhen and Xiamen. Shenzhen officially introduced its personal bankruptcy law in 2021, but very few applications have actually been approved. Xiamen only started its trial program in 2025, and so far, there are barely any successful cases. For someone like me who doesn't live in either of these cities, I'm not even eligible to apply. And even if you do qualify, the approval process is extremely strict. So everything I'm about to talk about is based on my own real experience, along with China's current legal situation. Of course, I'm not talking about things like intentionally taking out fraudulent loans or other serious financial crimes. During the first month after your debt becomes overdue, bank staff will usually call you to understand your situation and remind you to make payments as soon as possible. After about a month, banks will often transfer overdue accounts to third-party debt collection agencies they work with. Chinese law clearly states that collectors are not allowed to harass relatives or friends who are unrelated to the debt, and they are not supposed to disclose your financial situation to other people. But in reality, many collection companies don't strictly follow these rules because they want to earn higher commissions. That's also one of the reasons why many banks choose to work with third-party collection agencies. The first year after falling into debt is usually the hardest period. Every day you receive endless collection calls and harassment messages. Occasionally, you may also receive legal warning letters from the bank. If you've ever gone through overdue debt and debt collection before, I believe you know exactly what that feels like. Back then, whenever my phone rang, I would immediately feel nervous. It didn't matter whether it was an unknown number or a call from family or friends. Every ringtone made me feel stressed. That year was also one of the darkest periods of my life. 1 year later, the calls and messages from debt collectors on my phone will slowly start to decrease. But that doesn't mean it's over. The next step you may face is the bank officially filing a lawsuit in court. Once it enters the litigation stage, your bank cards and payment accounts can be frozen. If you own assets like property or a car, the court may seize them and even auction them off to repay the debt. But if you have no assets at all and no stable income, and you truly cannot repay the debt, you are usually not sentenced to jail, because this is considered a civil dispute, not a criminal case. Once the case moves into the enforcement stage, the court's measures become much stricter. You may be placed on what is known as a high consumption restriction list. Once you are on this list, you cannot take flights, stay in luxury hotels, or engage in high-end spending. At this point, I'm not even sure whether I've been placed on that list because I don't really have the financial ability to spend on those things anyway. What has affected me more is that my bank card still gets frozen from time to time. And beyond that, there is something more serious. If you are found to have transferred assets or intentionally avoided enforcement, you may be classified as a dishonest judgment debtor. Once you are on this list, the impact becomes much more severe. Your personal information can be made public, and your life, work, and even daily movement can all be restricted to a much greater extent. Compared to the high consumption restriction, being listed as a dishonest judgment debtor has a far more serious impact. For me personally, since I am not refusing to repay my debts on purpose, and I'm not involved in loan fraud, if I am unable to resolve my debt, the most realistic outcome is probably being under long-term consumption restrictions. Looking back over the past few years, I think one of the best decisions I made was that. During my most difficult time, I didn't borrow money from any friends or family, because in China the pressure of owing money to people you know can sometimes feel even heavier than owing money to a bank. In recent years, my situation hasn't improved much. If I had borrowed money back then, there's a good chance I wouldn't have been able to repay it on time, and I would have carried a constant sense of guilt. Most of my current debt comes from banks. This type of debt is a contractual obligation. Compared to borrowing from friends or family, it feels more like a clear financial responsibility rather than an emotional burden. Even when I meet my relatives now, I can interact with them without pressure, because I don't owe them anything. If I truly owe anything to anyone, it would probably be my parents. I feel I have fallen short of their expectations,